Good evening, ladies and gentlemen.
Spread innovative insights.
Stretch beyond boundaries. Welcome to City University MBA Shop Forum, where business frontier unfolds.
Today's forum topic is Catching the Digital Wave, the burgeoning challenges and opportunities for FinTech talent development. I am Tyler, a first-year part-time MBA student.
And I'm Jojo, also a first-year part-time MBA student. We're honored to be your MC tonight. On behalf of City University MBA program, we would like to thank you all for taking the time to attend the City University MBA Shop Forum tonight. Hey, Taylor, imagine one day if the company's decisions are made by AI and our jobs are taken over by the robots. What should we do to develop competency to align with opportunity and advancement?
Right. As a global hotbed for FinTech startups, the industry in Hong Kong is changing rapidly, actively ramping up their development and talent to provide insights on the elements that drive their success, including individual competencies and business strategies.
Tonight, we have invited 5 experts from different sectors related to FinTech to share their views and experience with us. They are Dr. Lucas Hui from Estri, Hong Kong Applied Science and Technology Research Institute, Mr. Jeff Tang from Hong Kong Ernst & Young, Fred Nga from Volatile Life Insurance Limited, Mr. Philip Tam from Cryptox Digital Assets Exchange, and last but not least, Ms. Sang Lee, also from Estri. Sang Lee, who will be leading our panel discussion session as our moderator tonight. Please welcome our guests with a warm applause.
Our forum tonight is divided into 2 parts. The first part is our 4 speaker presentations, followed by a panel discussion, and if time permits, we will have a Q&A session afterwards. Before we start to introduce our first speaker, just a quick reminder. Please fill in the feedback survey which you will receive by email right after the event, which will include a small quiz about the forum content. The first 5 respondents with all correct answers will receive 16 hours of data science and AI with Python Bootcamp, sponsored by Preface Coding.
Our first speaker tonight is Acting Co-CEO cum CTO of Estri. As Hong Kong's core FinTech R&D and tech talent nurturing organization, Estri was set up by the government to enhance Hong Kong's competitiveness in technology-based industry through applied research. Our speaker will talk about what Estri has devoted for FinTech development in Hong Kong. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Dr. Lucas Hui. Please welcome on stage.
Okay, thank you. And this evening, I'm quite honored, to have, this chance to discuss, some of the points that we are having the, developments of the FinTech with us. Okay, so we are talking about the FinTech technology, the talent development. So basically, it's the technology and the human being, how they interact. Okay, so, well, probably S3 is not that well known by quite a lot of people, so let me have a few time, to discuss what is the S3 about, the organization. We are the government set up research institute, so we try to create social impacts and economy values for Hong Kong. Basically, it's the the beach of the innovation and technology, and we work on projects that are collaborating with the local companies and government organizations. So in this case, we try to create new knowledge and then transfer the technology and knowledge to the companies so that we will build up the technology base of Hong Kong. So similar to university, we need to do on research, but different from university, we are doing applied research. So all our project must be something that is really used by the industry. Okay, and we are, set up to, around 20 years ago, and basically right now, we have, more than 500 researchers, and we have so far, built up around, 700 to 800 technologies and being obtained more than 800 patents. And then many of these have been used in many different places, Hong Kong and elsewhere over the world. And there are 5 different research institutes set up by the Hong Kong government, and S3 is the largest. And we are also one of the branch of the Chinese National Engineering Research Lab as the Hong Kong branch in the IC design. And we have many, many technologies. And from the viewpoint of the applications, we are divided in these 5 cases. So we have the smart city. Quite a lot of them are the IoT and the electricity supply, water supply, all these kind of the infrastructures. And of course, related to tonight, we have the FinTech. We'll talk quite a lot over there, okay? And then the others, we will have the digital health. So basically, it's the data analytics and the medical related kind of the research. And also, we have the something like the robotics that is applied to the intelligent manufacturing. And also, we have, as I mentioned before, is the IC design. So we are doing some components and in different types. And so in here, as tonight, focus is on FinTech, so that's why we will spend more time in here. Okay, so you can see that we have quite a long history, probably, we are, in many cases, we are actually pioneers. So for example, in the year of 2014, we are already doing pioneer research in blockchain research. And we have working on quite a lot of, different aspects. For example, we are actually having a white paper on this digital ledgers, distributed ledger technologies with the collaboration with the Hong Kong MA. And then, because of this one, we set up the Hong Kong MA and S3 Innovation Hub. So basically, we are much earlier than the others. And related to another one is, we have the development of the blockchain, after this year. And in another area related to the FinTech in cybersecurities, we roll out the CRASH, which is the international standard of the, cybersecurity testing standard examinations, and we carry out the training and examinations over there. So contributing to the cybersecurity development in Hong Kong. And moving on, we are having diversified technologies. For example, we are working on checkbox for banks. And one of the special point about the checkbox bill is that we are focusing on the mixture of language of Cantonese, Mandarin, and English. So in Hong Kong it's a multilingual environment. So we are doing very well in this kind of the multilingual chatbot. And besides, chatbot, which is for our ears, we also have technology for our eyes. So we have this OCR technology, basically is to do the automatic form scanning process. And in fact, we apply this to many, many different areas. We are also applying to banks, insurances, and actually many government organizations. And well, of course, one of the advantages of using the new technologies is about the business. And business, quite a lot of them are talking about the data analytics. At that time, we are working on quite a lot of the risk management. Now, of course, data analytics is very general. We apply this to some of the machine maintenance, but that is not related to the FinTech directly. But for the business, we are talking about the risk management of companies or transactions. So those are very popular. And actually, to be honest, up to today, this is a very hot topic. And then we are moving on many, many different situations. For example, we have the open banking, alternative credit assessment. That is talking about a lot of data, the business data. If we are using a common standard, what are the new opportunities providing we have? And in fact, this is a great chance about FinTech. Is we have more data for the people to share, to use, to analyze, then it will be having new technologies. For example, assessment of the banking, loan, or insurances by looking at, let's say, some utility using data or social media data. So those are all fit in this awareness of try to integrating different type of data together. And this is a very, very big area. And also related for about security is the authentication technologies, and then of the dynamic OCR for remote onboarding. Remote onboarding, of course, is a very integrated. We need to have optical technologies. We need to have, chatbot or some other analytic technologies. But one thing is because S3 is a multi-technology research institute. So in fact, one of the advantages of S3 is that we're able to doing some multi-technology integration together. So if in the modern world of FinTech or the other smart city development, well, we need multiple technologies. So that's why we're able to explore quite a lot of them. And of course, for today, we are using a more new area, for example, federated learning. Federated learning means that different organizations, they share their data so that they will be doing some analysis together, but at the same time, they keep their own privacy. So after integration of the data to do analysis, one company cannot know the data of the others, but still we are doing meaningful analysis. So we are working on this area. So you can see is that there are, actually this is also, not only is the development history of S3, but you can see it's also some of the very popular topics in the FinTech technology. So you can see from here, like this is, technology become more and more important, and we are able to find out new applications everywhere. Okay, so related to, so this is kind of a very simplified viewpoint about the FinTech, the technology. Usually we call this the ABCD. The A is for AI. So, as I mentioned about the chatbot, is the natural language, about our ears, and also the handwritten format. How to scan through the form. If you are writing, if you have written your home address, but with something wrong, we can use AI to correct it, to make it correct. So, and actually this is already some of the cases that we have already done in S3. And then, as I mentioned about the credit assessments and federated learning, those more using the intelligence. Previously is the human intelligence, but now we can use the machine. And then, we'll talk about is the blockchain. We know about this is for the distributed environment. And then, we will have a more, high quality trust among the different parties. So blockchain is basically using this one. And then cybersecurity is the threat intelligence and the intrusion detection those. And in fact, among of them, the more important is the data analytics. Because everywhere, right now, what is the FinTech is doing is we have a lot of chances to collect a lot of data. Then we try to make use of our best data to do analysis. And this actually is the core of all the others. Because for all the others are just linked up with the data analytics. Okay, so those are the topics, but in here we just briefly flip through some of the cases that I mentioned. But in fact, it's already been covered in the previous part. So as I mentioned, we have the work about the checkbox. Mainly is the Cantonese is the unique advantages of the Hong Kong development, but we are also mixing with the English and Mandarin and so on. And we are moving on in some new direction is something like the different dialects as well. And then, as we mentioned about the chatbot, the OCR is the processing of the forms. You not only about recognizing the characters, but also intelligence to analyze, as I mentioned before, whether your address is correct or not. Something like this one. So link up with the previous. And we are linked up with quite a lot of different types of, different applications, including, the tax return, those kind of things. And as I mentioned about is the credit assessment. So basically collect about the social media or news articles, company reports, do the natural language analysis. And after that, try to give a score to any organization, any people, or any transaction. Then in this case, this is the base of the risk assessment. And this is everywhere in business. So the FinTech, previously, now, and in the future, this will be an important area. And then, blockchain, no doubt, we have speakers from the crypto world, And basically, we have the digital currency and digital wallet. And then, whether it's talking about the performances, inter-blockchain communications, hardware accelerations, or the privacy protection. Or actually, it's the analysis of the blockchain-related transactions. All those are the topics that are quite hot. And as the blockchain is becoming more popular, now, of course, today's focus is on FinTech, but also in many other applications, this will be something very important. And then this is one of the blockchain development we are moving on with other applications like the property, purchase. So this is what we call PropTech. But in fact, many logistics, operations. We actually have one project on food safety. Okay, so all are the new applications of the blockchain. And then, as I mentioned about one of the new area, in FinTech is about the open banking API. Now, what does it mean? Basically, the idea is, well, we do some standardizations about the API. So different banks or different commercial sectors, we will follow the same standard. Allow us to communicate with different data. So a bank and insurance company can make business decisions based on utility data, based on some social media data, and then, or some kind of the transaction data in a shopping mall. So different sectors are linked up together. And this involves about the data standardization, open standard, and the web services. And this is also, of course, will link up with the different data analytics. So that's why I say data analytics is the core of the different FinTech applications. And so this is just some of the more concrete developments of S3. We have with the Hong Kong MA, have the regulators, and we do work on different white papers on different technologies. And we held in the data security area about supporting the Hong Kong MA's cyber security fortification initiative, the CFI. And more related to technology development. So we work with the Hong Kong MA about the FCAS, the FinTech Career Accelerator Scheme. So the universities are linked up with S3. We are doing the training. Okay, so let the students have more practical experiences. And we also have some, what we call the technology-oriented practitioner program. What does it mean? We link up with different universities. The students will get the education from the university. But there will be a few months working in S3 on practical projects, real projects in the different areas. The one with Hong Kong U is on FinTech, okay, so they will work on different FinTech areas. So in this case, our goal is that we try to help the industry so that they can have ready to, serve employees just after their graduation. Once they graduate, they already have the good theoretical foundation, but also have the practical experiences. And with the Chinese university, we also have another program is about, but that is a bigger scope about the smart city, not only about the FinTech. And we also have, some other, we have the CityU University Chengdu Research Institute, so we're the link up. So in this case, we will expand our collaboration with the others. So basically, S3 is working closely with universities about the FinTech. So this slide gives us about the different type of the technology, the talent development with universities. So as I mentioned before, we have the FCAS, the one with the Hong Kong MA, about providing the FinTech technologies, knowledge to the students. And we also have the work study schemes, as I mentioned. And we have some graduate programs, basically is to employ graduate students in S3s so that they can gain the experiences. And also, we have a S3 University Advisory Council, so we will have frequent communication with different universities so that to do the work together to help the whole industry of Hong Kong. And we have the postdoc hub, those is the ITF schemes to help to employ about the master and PhD graduates. And then finally for the undergraduate, we have the summer internship program. Every year, they will work a few weeks in the summertime so to get experiences. So those are the different type of technology in Hong Kong and in S3. And so the key point is like this is, we try to link up with the industry and universities together. S3 as a research institute, so it's to link up university in the basic research, knowledge generation, and then is to link up with the industry. So hopefully we can quickly produce a lot of talents for the Hong Kong FinTech sector. So this is the end of my talk. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Lucas, for sharing your experience in FinTech development. Our next speaker has a strong background in banking and HR. He has been a partner with EY since 2017. Tonight, he will share the important individual competencies from his advisory view. We are pleased to welcome our next speaker, Mr. Jeff Tang. Welcome, Jeff.
Thank you. Good evening. So, as you can, those who know me know I'm very passionate about people, right? Sorry, very passionate about people. I forgot about the mics. And I think one of the things that I'm hopefully the next 15 minutes to kind of share a slightly different perspective. You know, there is a lot of tech conversation, but you know, let's bring the hearts and soul. I always call it the people is the heart and soul of an organization. This quote, you know, I would say great vision without great people is irrelevant, right? Some of my friends who are on the strategy side, I say, look, yeah, you have great strategy. If you don't have great people, that strategy cannot be realized. I think that's something that hopefully I want to impress upon you, that that's crucial. So, you know, when I was asked and said, you know, what are the capabilities or what are the competencies that is required to be successful in this industry? I said, before we can answer that question, let's look at what are the specific issues or specific drivers that's shaping the industry itself. So the first is about, I use the word trust and value to customer, right? I think, like it or not, society, the level of trust will influence whether how far people will embrace, you know, whether it's digital banker, digital insurers. That's a very common denominator. You know, given my age, I remember back in the 97 financial crisis, when there's financial crisis, you see the number of people withdrawing cash from the banks and start hiding in beneath the bed at home. That's really talk about the trusting. The other part I always talk about financial services is that how do you make it relevant in our daily life, right? It's one thing to have all these funky apps, everything, but does it make a difference? One of the questions we always quite puzzled in Hong Kong, we still have very heavily cash environment. Why? Because if we take 2 days to settle the payment, then very hard for anybody to move from a cash to a digital platform. So how do you make a difference in that instance? Two, I mean, we are going to the realm of unknown. You know, trying to be successful on your own is just futile in this new environment. So, but how do you build? We talk about a lot about ecosystem. Is again, how do you partner for people not in financial services? When I was banking back in the days, banking is always notorious for being like on my own. Insurers say, oh, this is my own. Let's not talk about it, right? The first so-called, I remember a while ago, the first banker assurance, the concept of banking and insurance, that was like, what? Bankers will work with the insurance? Insurance said, no, I don't talk to bankers, this bunch of people, right? So that is really now, you talk about retail, you talk about lifestyle, you talk about travel, all those are about building that ecosystem itself. And look at this industry. This is really an industry working about with agility and fluidity. What do you mean by that? I'm sure if you think about it, 3 years ago, can people tell you what the things will look like now? So it calls for people who kind of, especially I think in banking or financial services, who get very comfortable where they are and start to say, go into this notion that user experience, who do I care? I calculate, this is the credit risk. I calculate this is the actual, this is how the risk is. Why do I care about how the user experience will be? Why does it matter that I have to click 42 clicks before I get to my answer, or I cannot find out where is the changes? I was just using one app this morning. I was screaming, where is that button? I'm looking literally 7 minutes trying to find to make a transfer, and it's just bizarre in itself. The new identity and culture, I think this is something that it'd be interesting for us. The people come from financial services say, hey, I'm the financial services guy. And the other one comes from tech. How do you bring these two very different culture into one organization and make it seamless? How do you make people to work together for one better purpose? Financial services is always driven from, I hate to use this word, bureaucracy, regulations, right? And then financial services, let's be quick, let's get this thing out the door. How do you get the right pendulum to be, how do you get the right point in this pendulum itself? And finally, it is a challenge in the industry. I've always been asked, sometimes I've been asked by folks and say, hey, Jeff, can you tell what would be the skills required in 20 years? I say, God knows. If I know that, I'll be a futurologist and then doing what I'm doing. They ask things that is really a lot unknown. And with that, it also leads to a lot of capabilities gaps. What are those? There's a lot being talked about technical competency, the coding skills and those things. But I'd like you to start thinking, are those technical competencies will make a difference? It help you to play or to win in the marketplace? Have a think about that. So the question here is, do you want to be good or you want to be great? What are the things you need to be great versus need to be good? In one of the conversation with one of the financial services, I say, why do you need to hire the best cloud architecture person? There are tech companies who can do it much better than you. So there are some skills in your organization where good will suffice, but there are some where you need exceptional, where great is required. So if you think about what are the competencies required, right? My view, this, and you look at it, there's nothing really talk about technical competency. Again, as I'm saying, it's not say it's not important. It is, but does it make a differentiator? Innovation orientation, that is very much lacking. This is, I'm sure, a lot of players are calling. I want people to be innovative, but at the same time, does the environment itself allow people to innovate? Innovative means you must accept failures, accept mistakes, right, and accept iterations. Partnership building, again, that links back to the point I mentioned earlier, the need to build ecosystem. You cannot be successful on your own. How do you build collaboration? How do you build a system with the other folks outside financial services? Co-creation, you know, the notion that, okay, I need to sit down with somebody to come up with a product or come up with a solution. That sounds alien to a lot of folks. How do you actually make it comfortable for an actuarist, for a credit risk person to sit with a UX designer and say, let's do something together? They're like, whoa, you talk in a different languages. We are come from you come from Mars, I come from Earth, kind of conversation. Learning agility, this is one of my favorite. If you ever heard of everything, this is the number one competency I always believe. The ability to learn is absolutely paramount for any success in the future. Because frankly, I asked you 20 years ago, we don't have such thing as like, you know, social media manager, right? Ability to learn, even in technical skills. I remember when I learned, you know, SQL coding 20 years ago, I was like, wow, it's pretty cool, SQL code, 3 Qs. But it's about the logic of it. So how your ability to reinvent yourself in that sense. Navigating ambiguity, it is the COVID-19 put in a whole different spin to this whole ambiguity. How comfortable are we as a person being challenged in an uncomfortable environment all the time? How do you feel about that? And finally, the agility. I mean, agile working being talked a lot, you know, about that, but ultimately it does tie back to the notion of ambiguity itself, right? I mean, human generally doesn't like change. The human like to be a comfort. We are human, right? But how do we feel every day that we've been thrown into a new environment and go to a discussion group and say, I don't know, let's figure out the answer ourselves. So that is another thing that make people think about. So I think in the FinTech, given all these changes and all this uncertain environment, it calls for really a new ways of working, right? It calls for how you do team leadership and teaming, right? You think about it. Then how does this actually influence the way you do learning development, right? I think the choice we're using federated, I would say is I think the idea you think about, you know, that an organization have this so-called paternalistic instinct and say, I tell you what to do. Those days are gone, right? Employee yourself have to make a call and say, what do I need to learn? How do I learn? Are you creating the right environment for me to learn? I'm not talking about sitting hours in front of Zoom. How do I have, you know, real lifestyle learning to some degree, right? You know, and this is the most bizarre, and I think this happened more in financial services, you know, the traditional financial services, where they say, oh yeah, we want to drive collaboration, this is important values. And I say, but your entire performance or rewards drive a silo behavior. How do you actually create that? It just kind of contradicts yourself in that instance. Recruitment, so often I say, people say, oh, I'm very short of cybersecurity, I'm short of all those things. But if you say these are the key competencies, do you actually incorporate in the way how you screen candidates? Do you actually find out whether the candidate can display innovation, display learning ability? Where are those? Are those being seen? And the organization itself, how you're being structured, those are actually influenced. So to me, it really calls for whole new ways of working. And this doesn't just the reason I'm showing this slide is actually one, folks who are entering the industry say, hey, this is a whole new world. If you expect to go to an organization, a truly innovative fintech organization, expect to be told what to do on an everyday basis and give you A, B, C, D. Sorry, please go back to 1970s banking. That's how you go. It's not going to happen, right? You have to have the inertia and say, oh, I'm being challenged in every day, right? That's what it is. And there's no kind of, you're not superstar on its own. How to work with others. So there's a whole different way of thinking or working in the organization itself. So which begs the question, then what is the role, what's the role of HR? So HR have a significant role to play in all those schemes of things. And in some cases, you see, one of the things that you see, so you have those like I call digital native, right? People like Fred come very, very digital native kind of environment. And for those who are actually very from those traditional financial services. So when they go through such a journey, and everybody go out and say, hey, I have this new funky system, I have this new amazing type put into place. But you know what, somehow I'm not getting the right adoption. People still doesn't really use it that much. So what went wrong in that? So as we all talk about transformation in this new day and age, we talk about all these changes. But the fundamental question is when organizations go through this, one thing is very lacking is, are you winning the hearts and minds? Do you care about the emotion? One of the things that I always talk about persona, the notion of persona. When you go through changes, people say, oh yeah, let's roll this, it's great. But the emotion that people go through to say, okay, how does it impact me? One of this is a real story, is I remember one particular situation when organizations go through a change. They go to a call center and say, hey, guess what? I'm putting all these chatbots and everything to modernize our call center. And telling the supervisor, hey, I want you to give feedback. I want you to help the machine to learn all these things. And the chat was thinking, hang on a minute. If I'm teaching the machine how to do all these things, do I have a job at the end of this? What does it mean for me, right? So are you addressing that part? So I think HR have a very important role to play in driving some of this transformation as you go through it, right? During the transformation, I talk about, right, am I overwhelmed? I'm not overlooked. Okay, I have my day job, I have my night job. I'm sure companies feel that, right? And what is changing? What does it mean for me? Do I have a job after end? So then you kind of have this syndrome, I call it, the traditional Chinese martial art, right? The master teach, you got 10 steps or whatever, 10 movement. They teach 9 to the student. The student teach 9 to the 8 because they feel that, hey, because that will keep myself relevant. But that can't happen. For industry to grow, for HR have a role, to organization need a role to cultivate a different situation. Okay? Are we listening to our employee? I say, are we supporting them? How often when you go through a transformation of going to a significant digitalization transformation, that is being overlooked in this instance, right? It's very, very real. Sometimes you think, hey, Jeff, I'm giving you a great opportunity. You have a chance to participate in this whole transformation. But say, why every time it's me? Why can't it be Jane next to me? Why is she not getting it? Then Jane say, yeah, why is it Jeff all the time? Why I'm not getting all the interesting projects per se? So I think that is very important, right? Success of a transformation does predicate on actually addressing the human aspect. Then post the situation, right? In the ways that, okay, what's my role? When you employ me back then, I'm just the accounts payable person, all right? I am the credit evaluation person for retail. But now you're asking me to become, a partner. Think about it from a product perspective. A lot of credit folks I know tell me, I come in with the way that I need to protect. I need to make sure good puts credit standard. And now you say, how do I turn it to become a better product? They were very confused at the role. I thought I'm the protector and make sure the bank is safe, But now you tell me that I want to use this knowledge to get better margin, get a better product. They're very confused with their role, if I say. As I said, do I have the role? How will the role be different? A lot of times you must understand people are very fearful. You ask me to change, but you never tell me to change, right? Even if you think of a very simple thing, right? I always say great salespeople will never make great people leaders, right? Because I'm a great sales. Out of the blue switch, oh, you are a people leader. I'm like, how do I do that? I have no idea, right? So make sure you don't overlook that part in that instance. So I also talk about, a lot of times, hopefully, some of you will actually playing the role in the people side of things. My impression really, hopefully want to leave with you guys, you really do not overlook the people. It is the people that makes the difference in the organization. It is the people that is bringing the heart and soul to the organization. And I hope in this excitement of FinTech, don't just look at the focus on the tech or the technical competency, but focus on the ways of working that will actually help them to become sustainable in the future. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Jeff, for your information sharing. Next speaker comes from the first virtual insurer in Hong Kong. He will elaborate on developing individual competency, as well as the business strategy on how to transform a traditional organization to a virtual business driven by FinTech innovation. He is the co-founder and co-CEO at Volatile Life Insurance Company. Ladies and gentlemen, let's put our hands together for our speaker, Mr. Frank Nga.
Thank you. Hi, thanks everyone. It's my honor to speak here. I've been presenting a lot using Zoom. It's actually one of the first time I present in front of a lot of people today. Not sure how do I use this. Okay, so the topic today is to make insurance good again, and I will split this into two parts. The first part is to talk about Volatile. What is Volatile? What do we do? What kind of pain point that we solved? And the second part is about the culture, some of the value that we have, and so on. So with that, I'd like to start with this picture. So we are Volatile with the Hong Kong first virtual insurer. This is actually a picture that we took the day before we got the license authorizations. It's actually a picture that we took with the regulators. And it's one of our proud moments because being a local setup to win the first license, it actually means a lot. If you look at the window, it's actually in the evening because we have been working very long hours to actually achieve that. And since then, we have been still keep on going. The world is changing. If you look at the purchasing preference, this is actually a survey done by Swiss Re, China, to 2020. If you ask people what is the purchase preference in China or for insurance, if you look at that, you see that 61% they say they prefer online for simple and cheap insurance, and about 16% for offline for all insurance, and about 7% for online for all insurance. And one of the reasons why they pick online is, sorry, the number is a bit small, but it's 70 for convenience and simplicity, 50% for transparency. It's actually not very transparent even in Hong Kong. You can't really find the premiums, the fee, the commissions online. And about 46% for the agents, avoidance of the agent's promotion, because some of the agents can be quite pushy. So if you look into this, it seems like the demand is quite strong. But if you compare that against Hong Kong, this is a statistic from the Insurance Authority. If you look into the distribution online for the life and health business, right? You will see that 99% is still being sold through the agents and banks. So you see that the market hasn't really changed. In Hong Kong, we have more than 100,000 agents, and we tend to focus on selling saving product. We're still suffering a very significant production gap. So that's why what we want to do as Volatile is we want to use the technology to distribute pure production product. Hopefully we can bring this ratio up to something like 30%, 40%, or even 50%. Virtual insurers are not new. If you look around, right, in China, there's like Zhong'an, there's Lemonade in New York that's just filed IPO, there's Oscar Health, there's Allen, there's a lot of them. And if you look at the funding that put into insurance tech, there's almost like billions that put into insurance tech. They're betting on the fact that disruption is happening now. The industry hasn't really changed for many years. So you actually attract a lot of talent, attract a lot of capital into the insurance technologies. So how do we define virtual insurer? There's several characteristics. One of them is the high protections. Again, when I say high protections, from an actuary perspective, we prefer to buy product that has a very high protection leverage. But in fact, out there are lots of people selling saving products. We think we're not selling enough protection product. And another element is the distribution channels. Again, right now, less than 1% is sell online. But when we can actually the fact that we build everything on a mobile phone, we're able to support application, claim, underwriting, everything using just online. So there's a lot more convenience. We actually replace everything using modern technologies, so there's no legacy. Some people might ask, what is the difference between a digital and a virtual insurer, right? So digital is, we're referring to people actually insured that are more traditional, but they're trying to build online insurance. But for us, we build everything from scratch. So there's no legacy systems, legacy people, or legacy channel. And using technology, we hope to make insurance more friendly and affordable. Friendly because people still think that insurance are very complex. Insurance are difficult to understand. It's not very transparent. So hopefully by putting everything online, we allow people to just read on their own, and they can take the time and do the comparison. Because in the new economy, the behavior is very different. People actually want to spend the time. They don't like pushy sales. And affordable because without intermediary, we're able to cut down some of the costs and automate some of the processes. And we can bring the cost down to a level that is actually affordable to everyone. Right now, people still think that insurance is expensive, but in fact, it's actually not. If you're able to just focus on the peer protections, it can be very affordable. No matter how much you make, you can actually afford a ticket to any private hospital. So we built the first fully online health insurance experience. There are several key elements. One is offering the highest product value. So for some of the term life or voluntary health insurance scheme, we are able to provide the lowest premium while providing the same level of coverage. At the same time, we're adding a lot of health and wellness benefits to our products. Everything digital. So again, from online application, underwriting, claims, everything is digital. And one of the examples I want to highlight is we built this virtual underwriting engines. Right now, if you want to buy a health product, you have to go through offline medical examinations. But you can just come to Volatile. You can just do online health declarations, and as if you're talking to a virtual doctors. It's an engine that we built with our in-house doctors, with the Insurer. It actually quite dynamic. It actually cover 800 questions and 500 diseases, and give you a binding code within just a few minutes, as opposed to that might take weeks or days. And lastly, the customer service is still very important, even though it's virtual, because we're in the health business. So if you have any underwriting questions, if you have any claim questions, we still want to have a team that serves you one-to-one. We do have a very professional, fully licensed chain of customer service. We think as we scale, it's very important that we continue to bet on the technology and the CS, because the human touch is still very important. Just a snapshot of the team. Interestingly, right now we've got about 70 people. Half of the team is from the industry. So these are the specialists. These are the people who are from compliance, from actuaries, risk, investment. They tend to have about 10 to 20 years experience. These are the insurance specialists. But at the same time, for the function like the engineering, for the function like the design, branding, partnership, we're trying to hire from the startups. This creates a very different culture. So these are the people who have zero experience from the insurance industry. Sometimes it's better to hire people who don't know, because they can ask the obvious question, like how does the deductible work? So this industry jargon, we thought it's actually very clear, but it's not, especially when we target the millennial. Most of the time, they don't have much knowledge. So interesting that to see this different group of people are fighting all the time, but every time they fight, they debate, it actually makes the product better and simpler. Some of the people ask, like, how do we compete with the larger insurer? It's actually not a fair competition. And I personally think it comes down to the people and the culture. But what defines culture? The culture is actually how we do things. And there's some value underlying that drive our decision making, what to do and what not to do. So in these sections, I want to very quickly touch on the visions, touch on the values, and give you a snapshot of how we drive our decision making day to day. In Volatile, our vision is that in 5 years, we want to be the first company that comes to your mind when you think in health insurance. There's nothing in this statement about market shares, nothing about revenue, nothing about customer count. We want to be the mainstream. Right now, if you think of health insurance, you might go to agents. If you think of savings, you might go to banks. So hopefully in 5 years' time, for at least the target segment like millennials, the younger segment, if you think of health insurance, you will think of Volatile. We want to make insurance good again. We think insurance is fundamentally good. We think it's such an amazing product that we're in a business that pay claims. We're in a business that help people. It's good for the family and society. But at the same time, we think it sort of lost its way when the product becomes so complex, when lots of people don't understand what they're buying. Using technology, hopefully we can fix this by providing more transparency, by bringing the cost down. And one of the reasons why the mission is important is not just a statement, but we put it on the wall. It actually guides our decision making. You know, every time we build a product, every time we do things, we ask ourselves, does it make insurance better? You know, for a product that you will build, will you sell it to your friends? Will you sell it to your mom? Is this something that you really care? Is this something that you really believe? So the mission is something that is very important. It sort of drives our underlying value. And in the next few slides, I'm going to touch on 4 different values that we actually have just recently documented and shared with the team. And to make it more memorable, we're trying to put this like little GIF and image there so that it's easy to recall. The first one is to live your purpose. You know, don't be a salty, preserved dead fish, 唔好做鹹魚, to have no dreams or purpose. Because having a purpose actually keeps you focused. It helps you to drive the right decision faster. Right now, as a virtual insurer, what we do is difficult. You might bump into a lot of challenges, but it's important that you put the team go ahead of your own, rather than your personal agenda. It's very easy to say, not my job. In our environment where there's so many gaps in our organizational design, if you don't take extra step to help the company achieve the purpose, if you only think about your JD, it's very hard to produce that to actually achieve your shared visions. So that's why living the purpose is very important. The second one is own it. I like this image say, the path to the inner peace becomes with 3 little words, not my problem. We expect you to have a strong sense of ownership because in a startup environment, again, there's so many gaps. There's unclear JD. If you work in a team, we don't have all the project managers to help you to manage the communication. We don't have the business analysts to help you manage the requirements. You have to take a few extra steps to get it done. So because of that, we need to be able to depend on each other. So this is actually very important to us. The craftsmanship is important because, again, we are asking you to compete with the other big insurer. If you just only aim for 20% improvement, it's not enough. We're asking you to fundamentally redesign the customer journey and to make it 10 times better. That's the only way that you can survive, the only way you can actually stand out. That's why it's important that we take pride in our work. Good enough or check the box it doesn't work for us. We have to aim a lot higher. So this second one about own it actually applies to a lot of people, telling them that regardless of your JD, it's very important that you actually own the problem and take it to the finish line. Unbreakable. This is one of my favorite Marvel heroes. Captain America say, I can do this all day. So giving up too easily means you avoid doing hard things. At Volatile, we're asking you to do something that is unreasonable. We're asking you to compete with the big insurer that has 1,000 times more resources, has more than 100 years of history. When we launch, we have about 100 days of history. We're asking you to compete with them. So internally, it's funny, every time we have to make a decision between A and B, we tend to pick the more difficult one. Because the default for some of the corporate is to go with the easier path. But sometimes when you pick a more difficult route, it actually leads to a better outcome. So when we apply for the insurance license, we decide to do it on our own without any consultant. We decide to, rather than buy any technology, we decide to just build on our own. So every little decision that we made, we're trying to take the one that we think it makes sense in 5 years' time. And ultimately, all this cumulative success and advantage allow us to actually produce a much better result. It's important that we become resilient as a team because what we do, again, is difficult. So we have to get stronger by doing more and getting stronger. Don't give up without even trying. There are lots of things that we do To be honest, a lot of people haven't done it before, but it's important that we keep trying, and you might see a solution there. The last one is be kind. This one is funny too. So the path ahead is not easy. So it's important that we help each other to grow and through the working and personal relationship. Being kind doesn't mean unconditional love. We're not a family. Family is about unconditional love. I would, same as what the Netflix say, it's more like a sport player. You get on the stage, you perform. You either perform, like you get off the stage. So sometimes what is best for someone is not to stuck with someone in the wrong positions. So even though we need to encourage more constructive debate, but at the same time be humble. In the past, we tried hiring some of the more experienced hire. We realize that sometimes they don't learn as fast as a junior because they're not as open-minded. FinTech is so new that if you keep learning, if you keep trying, you might be expert in 5 years' time. So it's important that you stay humble, stay open-minded, and you might find your path there. So to wrap this up, I would say the 4 values that I mentioned is actually a good reminder to the team and also to myself. It's easy to recall, easy to understand, but it takes years to practice, take years to master. At the end, I just want to wrap it up with this picture 2 months ago. We just celebrated the 2nd year anniversary with our milestone. And the milestone is to provide 10 billion protection coverage to Hong Kong. Again, we didn't use the revenue or customer count as a benchmark. I think this ties back to our mission and vision to make insurance good again. And at the end, I just want to say, I think it's the perfect time to be in FinTech right now. There's so much things happening, and there's so much learning, and we have been learning a lot, and that's it. Thanks for having me here.
Thank you, Fred, for your impressive sharing on transforming traditional businesses to virtual ones. Our next speaker is the founder of Cryptox. He will share with us how blockchain technology and cryptocurrencies will reshape the global economy and what individual competencies and business strategies are needed to prosper in FinTech. Let's welcome Mr. Philip Tam to the stage.
Okay, thank you everyone. And first thing I want to say is I was expecting Fred to wear a bow tie, okay? But anyway, I think it was a very impressive presentation. To start, I just want to ask a quick question. How many of you in the audience have bought any cryptocurrency or traded cryptocurrency? 1. Or participated in an ICO, initial coin offering? Do I count 2? Okay, so when I go through my presentation, you see why. But you see the percentage of people who have actually tried. A lot of people have heard about cryptocurrency, blockchain, but many people actually have not had the experience. So today I'm not going to lecture you about blockchain. Okay, what I'm really trying to share with you is the last 3 years that I have been built up Cryptos Exchange, and why it is actually very relevant to all of us. Why it is going to change the world. It is here to stay and it's not going to crash. It will. The fluctuation is, no one has ever seen asset class fluctuates like that, but that is the characteristic. Now, just to give it a perspective about digital assets. Digital assets today, okay, is mainly cryptocurrency. We're talking about 8,260 cryptos or tokens, trading in 250 digital exchange around the world on the internet. It's pretty impressive. And if you look at the growth, oops, I'll get back. Okay, and if you look at the growth, it started with 10 billion, okay, in 2013. And it grew to 10 trillion. We're talking about market value, okay, 10 trillion market value over a period of 8 years. That meant it grew by 106 times in 8 years, okay? Or if you're talking about any growth rate, it's about 150% every year, which is amazing. So it's not to be ignored. And it has already reached its kind of critical mass, and the only thing it will go is to expand. And I'll also tell you why is it. The 5 major innovation in the last 10 years. So this has actually been compiled research by MIT, Oxford, Cambridge University, Harvard, and they come to a general consensus. The most important innovation, DNA sequencing, robotics, energy storage, artificial intelligence, and blockchain, okay? The main difference actually for blockchain with all this, why is it going to change the world? I'm not really controlling this very well today. Okay, I need somebody to help me to, how many switch to嗰個 slide? 第4個 slide 應該係。再之前嗰個。Okay. So the use case for blockchain and for cryptocurrency. Now, there are so many of them, but I just picked 4 here. Letter of credit. Okay, this is a cross-border payment for a lot of factories in China, and then they want to ship goods across to different countries, to the US, and they use LC, letter of credit. Typically, this takes about 5 to 10 days on a good day, to get the money from the banks. Aircraft maintenance, many of you probably don't know an aircraft typically change hands 5 to 6 times, okay? And there's a lot of records to be kept. And on a digitized LC, actually the first blockchain-based LC was actually done by HSBC, between HSBC Hong Kong and HSBC Shenzhen. And they did that renminbi denominated blockchain, denominated LC to help a Hong Kong listed company to buy products. Actually, they buy the LCD wafer, LCD lighting, etc. I think it was a proof that a Hong Kong company can actually be the first, to do this digital cross-border transaction. And it was done in 24 hours. So of course, it was from the same bank, from the Shenzhen branch to the Hong Kong branch, so they've taken a lot of the interbank system anomalies out of it. That helped. I'm sure it was a different bank, it would have taken longer. But anyway, it's a demonstration of how a very traditional kind of financing, okay, can be done on the blockchain. Maybe it's easier to understand on the aircraft maintenance because aircraft have very, very complex maintenance requirement and schedule. And then they need to keep all the track record, all right? And when you actually move from one airport to the next airport, not to say from one airline to the next airline. So to put all the information on an open ledger, blockchain is about a distributed ledger. So you can actually put all those maintenance information on the distributed ledger. So the different parties in the ecosystem or in the workflow can actually have access to it. Of course, there are authentication, there are securities, not everybody can access it. But that actually makes a lot more sense to reduce cost. And online gaming is one of the big users of actually crypto. And the smart fridge, this is like using energy. Okay, so the fridge can actually, not in Hong Kong, but in the US or Australia, the fridge can actually decide which electricity provider has the lowest cost, and it will go there, and will execute that smart contract. Okay, decentralized finance. This is important because blockchain really is about centralization and decentralization, and that is the reason why it's going to change the world. Because the world today, most of the ecosystem, the financial system are centralized, central bank, okay? You need to remove money from, we were earlier saying that, you do a transfer, international transfer, and most people fail. Why? Because there's too many input. You have to do the SWIFT code, and somebody called the ABA, and your routing number. You go to the US, it's a different set of numbers. It's incredibly complicated. Decentralized finance, meaning there is no central bank. Yes, that's blockchain, okay? And you are using digital currency. They don't close, the bank close, okay? And there are weekends. In the blockchain world, it's 24/7. That's why it's so tough working in the blockchain industry. It doesn't stop, it doesn't sleep. It goes continues, goes on. And then the fact that you are taking the middleman out of it is all about, like insurance. You're taking out the middleman out. And there's give the consumer, the retailers, okay, you cut down the cost, you increase the efficiency. So all the decentralized finance is taking a lending platform. So all of you can be a lender, okay, through that platform. So you can actually, I can lend $100 out, or crypto, in terms of crypto, USDT, BTC, ETH, or I want to borrow, okay? And then they have what yield farming, meaning that I can place this crypto on this platform, it will return 5%, it will return 10%. Now, having said all this, I must say a lot of risk, a lot of scam. Even there's no scam, how do you know that that particular platform won't get hacked? So if they get hacked, you lose your cryptocurrency, you lose your money. But this is actually one of the fastest growing field in finance. It's this decentralized finance. It's growing just incredible. Okay, this is one of my favorite, Dogecoin. Anybody who heard of this coin? Oh, a lot of people heard of this coin. This was a joke. In 2013, two software developer, a Marcus and a Palmer, okay, two developer, and they want to make fun of the cryptocurrency, about a traditional financial system. So they developed the Dogecoin. It has absolutely no utility, but because it's so cute, this is from a Taiwan, okay, a Japanese Shiba dog. It caught the world in a storm. Everybody loved it. So people keep buying this Dogecoin. It's today the 6th largest cryptocurrency, and you won't believe it, at $54 billion. I mean, its market cap is bigger than a lot of US listed companies. And thanks to Elon Musk, because he was, really having some fun, putting his face, on his tweet, okay? After he sent his Falcon 5 up, he put this on his tweet. And that day, Dogecoin went up 40%. And over the past 6 months, Dogecoin has gone up 26,000%. Okay, you won't believe it. It's just completely ridiculous, but this is the new world. Okay, I'm not asking you to go and buy this, but having said that, I did buy some. I started building a portfolio for my daughter. So, so one day, 3 months ago, after Chinese New Year, I thought, oh, what the hell, go and buy some. And then I bought about $200. So I thought, said to my daughter, this is where your lycee is going. But a week after that, it went up 5 times. So my daughter said, can I put more lycee in there, please, Dad? I'm not encouraging it, but it's kind of fun. Now, if you want to get into this industry, this is the kind of the hard skill. Okay, so I'm not going to go through this. You can read it later. Okay, you need to do about cloud computing, analytical reasoning, artificial intelligence, blah blah blah. This is what you need. Okay. And then you want to be a software blockchain developer. These are the hard skills, right? Cryptography, data structure, smart contract development. But what I think is really matter at the end of the day. Oops. Why is it going? Can you move forward for me? 可唔可以褪前啊？同我係啦，再褪前，再褪前，褪前，唔知點解褪唔到。啱啱係去到最重要呢 part。Yeah, keep going. There are 6 points. No, that's it. I don't want to kind of say it. I want you to see it. So this is what I think are the most important qualities that you need to have, and they actually echo what the previous speakers have said. But of course, they articulate it in much more finesse than I do here. I think curiosity is very important. Okay, you need to be curious. If you are curious, you learn. Okay, and then I'll jump to the next one. I think it's more important, problem solving. You're curious, you learn. You need to problem solve, okay? Collaboration, communication, of course, okay? Teamwork, you need to do all this. And customer-centric is the next most important, okay? If you don't think about your customer, what he gets from your service, your product, you won't succeed. It will be the best product, but it will be the biggest failure. Okay, I'll discuss more going forward. Very important. Yeah, thank you. Next one. So what do? I do security token, I do tokenization, okay? My exchange doesn't actually just, do crypto trading. In fact, that is not the business that I'm in. The business I'm in is tokenization. So you have boxes of fine wine, Chateau Latour, okay? Chateau Margaux. So those are $20,000 a bottle of wine. And then you have oil painting, or you have 張大千嘅畫, okay, Monet, Van Gogh, diamonds, okay? And I'll show you another example of a huge graphite, very, very interesting. Real estate. Now, all these are what we call illiquid assets, okay, which you cannot quickly change into money. They are illiquid. So there are two sides of it. One side is from the owner. The owner holding this asset is a bit stuck. Okay. Also, there are a lot of us, hey, I want to buy one of these wine, okay? I may not be able to drink it, but I want to be the owner. I want to own, a piece of the Monet, Picasso. I can't. It's $10 million a piece. Diamonds, etc. Okay, but with tokenization, you can do that. So what tokenization really means is 碎片化. Okay, the assets that you have, you can tokenize it. You turn it into like 100 million pieces. What you're really doing is you put it in a company. In a company, you have shares, and then you tokenize the shares, okay? And then you can sell the token to individuals. That's how tokenization actually works. If you have tokenized those assets, you can sell it to anyone, okay? Why does it beat everything, the current, status quo? Because the exchange is 24/7. You can buy and sell all the time, okay? Fractional ownership, we mentioned already. Liquidity, a lot of people who want to buy that. Okay, and it's instantaneous, almost instantaneous. It's pretty fast. Okay, if you can buy, sell tokens, you know how fast it is. Okay, one very important part is automated compliance, because nowadays, we want to protect, the company. You want to protect the consumer. So anybody who goes to the exchange needs to go through the standard KYC. Okay, and there are more increased, more stringent compliance for security token. Okay, of course, cost reduction. It's a huge, reduction in cost. And to show you this, maybe a bit small, but I will kind of show you here. So these are the listed projects that we have done. So we have tokenized the business for the business owner. They become a token, and we can actually sell that in the exchange. But by doing that, we actually follow the IPO framework. You have to have auditors. You have to have valuation report. Okay, we have to do a complete due diligence on the management team, okay, to make sure that you have product, you have service, you have assets. It's not like the ICO world. I have a very, very beautiful white paper, 24 pages of PPT, and I want to raise $100 million. It used to be like that, mostly scam. So we take that one step further, and we use the IPO framework from the major jurisdiction, from Hong Kong, the US, from London, Singapore, and we distill it, okay? Bring the level down, but the framework is the same. So the actual listing cost is a lot lower, okay? And then you can, I will show you this here, okay? So what we have whiskey. This is a Scottish single malt cask investment, okay, of whiskey, anybody who likes that. This is a copper mine in Peru. This is agarwood. It's a plantation. It's an organic substance that is used in Chinese medicine, as well as used in the most expensive fragrances. So your Christian Dior, your Versace fragrance uses oud oil. This one from the US is a commercial mall, real estate. And you think, what? Why buying more, investing in a mall in the US is a bit of a suicide. Now, this was actually listed 2 months ago. But it's a business model that counts when it comes to, financial fundraising. This gentleman, the owner, because of COVID, the commercial real estate, 25% of commercial real estate actually are going into bankruptcy. Okay, But by that, he can buy it 25 cents to $1, a 75% discount. And then what he did was he put a shooting range inside because the gentleman, the owner, is a very committed, passionate, shooter. So with his community, with his network, the National Rifle Association, so he invite all these gun clubs to build a shooting range, and then he would circulate and reformat the mall to invite all the sports goods. Of course, he's selling firearm, ammunition, as well as mountaineering, biking, canoeing, you name it, all the adventure sports. So then you have traffic. And when COVID now, 50%, people are vaccinated. When it goes to 70, the capital asset appreciation is significant. Okay, so it goes on like this. So this is in Philippines. This is another real estate. Philippines, they are building the best beachfront real estate, and they're building like Aman Resort, similar on it. The Millennium Sapphire, which I'll talk a little bit in about a couple of minutes. Solar energy from Australia. This is another Agerwood project. This is in Laos. And then commercial real estate in Southeast Asia, and a gold project in Africa. This is back to the tokenization again. The Millennium Sapphire, one and only. This is the world's largest single-piece crafted sapphire, 61,500 carats. It weighs 12.3 kilograms. Okay, and it's valued $150 million US. The owner, Dan McKinney, is a good friend. He actually bought this with a syndicate of investors 20 years ago, and he sat on it. He didn't know what to do with it. Okay, until tokenization, blockchain came along. Okay, and what he further did was the sapphire was just a stone like this, big, and he got one of the best sculptor, designer, Italian, to carve 103 figurines, okay, this little figure here, to record mankind's greatest achievement, like the Great Wall of China, Buddhism, Jesus, Mohammed, men going to the moon. So the first figurine actually was the Orion constellation, Xingquan. Is one of the best known and the brightest. And the last, the 103 figures, actually is the man sending a binary code, okay, to the universe, telling where we are, where Earth is, okay. So it's very meaningful. But what I'm saying is, these are people who are really very creative, okay. Now with the advent of tokenization, with non-fungible token, so that what they're able to do is tokenize this, okay, into 100 billion token, okay, and then you get each piece, they do a non-fungible token. Each piece itself is unique, so they can actually become a digital asset, and they can sell the digital image. So if you're interested, you can actually go to this mstoken.ai and see a lot of the information, the whole story, okay. And the last one I want to share is whiskey. Okay, Howard Tsai is one of the top chef cook, and also very well regarded in Scotland in this distillery business. One of the few who actually got the highest ranking of the Quaker because of his investment, of his passion with cask whiskey. And you probably don't know, cask whiskey as an investment grade asset has outrun or beat every single asset class. So the asset class could be gold, could be silver, could be the Hong Kong stock market, the Dow Jones index, okay, everything. So for the past 15 years, every year the value increased by 13 to 15%. Okay, that meant if you have $1,000 15 years ago, today you would have got $7,000. So it's quite a good investment. So what we've done with them is, the whiskey actually previously can only be bought by professional investors. You just can't go to Scotland to buy them. So what he has done, okay, is he raised funds, okay, a Cayman fund to invest in the cask whiskey, and then we tokenize the shares for him, and then to sell the token to the public. So a lot of people can actually buy, they can invest in something that's not available before. So that's what solving a client's problem. Oops, I'm go forward on that. Okay, so we go back to here. If I were to ask which is the most important, I would say problem solving. It's the most important qualities I think you need today to survive. Because problem solving is not just a skill, it's an attitude. You know, it's a passion. You want to problem solve. I mean, imagine if you're the boss of any business, okay? If there's only one quality is, you know, please help me to solve this problem. Be it I'm running out of kitchen towel, okay, or I've got this incredible client that I can't deal with, you know, sort it out for me. And customer-centric is the next, the most important. If you combine these two, customer-centric, what you find is if you have made some mistake, the customer will complain less, okay? And the customer is likely to be more sympathetic if you really made a mistake, not you personally, but the company, maybe, okay? You'll be more sympathetic. If you've done something well, you get much more acknowledgement, recognition, okay? And then you have empathy, meaning that the customer, the client, identify himself or herself with you. And at the end of the day, you get more business. So that's why I believe these qualities are very important. That concludes my presentation. Thank you. And sorry about not being able to control this thing.
Thank you, Philip, for your sharing on the possibility and future growth potential of blockchain and decentralized finance.
For the next part of our forum, we have invited Ms. San Lee, Head of Talent Acquisition from Astri, as our panel discussion moderator. She has 25 years of experience in talent acquisition, talent management, and recruitment services of senior executives across industries. Before we invite the speakers on stage, just a warm reminder, as we know our audience has many questions, we will try our best to get our speakers to answer as many of them as we can. For the online audience, please raise your questions in the chat box. Let's welcome San Lee and all our speakers back on the stage to kick off the discussion.
Hi, good evening, everyone. It's good to see you all here. And I'm so excited to be the moderator of tonight's panel discussion. You know, I can sit aside and then listen to all these great leaders in the FinTech business, talk about their insights. So now it's the time for me to put all these great minds together, for a group discussion. So what's going to happen next is, first of all, I need to talk about my goal for the next 45 minutes, right? I will try my best to get the best possible advice from all these talented leaders, right? For you, to get the insight and then, to better equip yourself and then ride on the wave, the digital wave of FinTech developments. Right, okay. Now, first we'll start with the group discussion and then we'll move on to a specific question for each of the panelists. Afterwards, as our host said, and we hope we can have some time for the Q&A section. To help me achieve my goal, please do prepare your questions to make them really fruitful. All right, without delay, let's get started. Now, my first question to the panel. You have all covered many individual competencies and business strategies on FinTech development. In your opinion, which core competence you think is the most lacking in Hong Kong? and why? May I address to Dr. You need the, you need the
Okay,
discussion
so,
first. Thank you.
As our background is from the research institute, so maybe I talk more about the technical side, and the others maybe talk about the other business side. Actually, in my presentation, I already mentioned about that. I think that the data analytics is the core of the different technologies. So for the ABCD, the AI, blockchain, cybersecurities, actually you can see that all of them go within the same themes. Right now, we have the internet. So that's why we have some means for us to collect a lot of information. And from the more of this information, we can have newer way of doing the analysis, trying of something we call the destructive technology, so that we overturn all the old way of working. So we will have more efficient solutions and so on. So that's why I would say that is the data analytics will be the most important one. And well, to be honest, every technical sector are lacking of people. This is true. But if you're talking about why data analytics, I feel it's more important, it's because it's so general. So that's why it has a broader extent. So if, let's say we have different places, we want to improve the talent supply, what I will say is probably the best one is about the data analytics. And this is not only, working for itself, but also, even if, let's say, you work on cybersecurity or the others, the data analytic technique skill will still be useful. So that's why, technical-wise, I will feel that is more important.
Right, thank you. Right. Any other comments?
I think I kind of mentioned earlier, I do feel that one of the fundamental capability or competency is around the notion of learning agility, right? Today you might, I'm not very technical person, today you might learn a particular language in coding, right? But the key is not about learning that language itself, it's about the construct of coding, the logic thinking of it, right? So next time when you have a different language, you still need to be able to survive, right? So I do think that if I have to choose one, right, I think if you can choose one, then that will be key. And the reason why I choose that as being kind of lacking in Hong Kong, I think it has to do to some degree with the education system. I mean, we grew up in the old days, right? Your GCSE and all kind of thing. You go through that, and you kind of slot it into different study stream, right? You have the science, the art stream. But as a result, you kind of stereotype or group people into one mind of thinking, right? It doesn't have like a study anthropology, literature, maths and everything. You don't have that kind of the variety of learning. As a result, I think then you kind of put people say, okay, can I learn new tricks, right? The thinking, can old dogs learn new tricks? I certainly do think it is. I think it's a critical skill to have to be able to survive in the future.
Right, that's very true. Right, thank you.
I happen to, I saw that on the slide you pick problem solvings and customer centric. I think those two are very important. To more to mention, in a startup environment, I think problem solving is important because a lot of things that we do is new. Unlike in a corporate where there's a defined process, but sometimes when we're working on something new, we realize that the problem solving skills come into play because you haven't done it before. You need to research, you have to think from first principle, you have to test different solutions. And then realize that the people who really have problem solving skills, they can solve a problem a lot faster than someone who don't, someone just simply follow the rules. And also agree with Jeff when you mentioned the learning agility. I happen to see that, I think not everyone is that curious, but if you're curious, you to learn a lot more. Sometimes we only learn for the exams. But for those who actually learn because they're curious, they want to know more, I think that actually make a major difference. We do have a lot of professional in our firms. Like myself as an actuary, there's doctors, there are engineers. I think one thing being a professional is you're very good at learning. And when I study my actuarial science profession, I actually specialize in quantitative finance. I don't do that anymore. But I think I learned how to learn. I take the same learning ability to learn what I need to do, like the branding, the marketing, the partnership. It can be learning online, talking to experts, but I think having that learning ability and having that curiosity is very important. As Philip mentioned, it's not just the skills, it's also the mindset.
Right.
I think this is very core.
Right, I couldn't agree more with that. Learning agility, then the mindset of continuous learning as a lifetime endeavor is also my passion. So, right.
One thing I would like to share further is that recently I have had to interview some software engineers, and the junior position. So the 3 candidates, okay, very young, one with 2 years experience, one with 4, one with 5. Okay, background is computer science, mathematics, and politics. Okay, because this is like fun and work, so they don't teach you in university, so most of them pick it up themselves. And I asked them, and they all said, "Oh, we wanted to join your company because you are, in blockchain, cryptocurrency, blah blah blah." And I asked them, I said, "So the same question I asked you: have you bought any cryptocurrency? Have you traded? What do you know about Bitcoin?" The immediate reaction was, "Oh, more. It's too dangerous. Oh, the fluctuation." And I said to them, firstly, if you want to come and work for me in this industry, well, you should have at least, try it out. You can try $100. You don't need to try $100,000. Okay, you can buy $100 of crypto and see how it goes. See how you open an account. Actually, you'll find you cannot transfer the money to buy it, because that is part of the experience. That's what I think is lacking in Hong Kong. People are very, very risk averse. Okay, and then they hear this is bad, and they don't really think about what is bad.
Right.
Okay, I think in this line of business, rules are made to be broken. That's how scientific breakthroughs are made. Is you push the boundary. Rules are made to be broken. There's one thing I learned very young.
Right. Well, I guess
in a good way, not in a criminal way.
Right. Well, that's very, very true. That's the reality, unfortunately. Right. Okay. Now, my second question to the panel is, of all those gaps and challenges that we just discussed, right? Do you think actually they are Hong Kong exclusive, or actually it's a global phenomenon? What do you think? Is something related to cultural background?
I think it's
not
a global.
Really?
I think it's more of a global phenomenon. But maybe in the U.S., for the millennium, I think they accept things much faster. But a lot of it is peer pressure, rather than genuine curiosity. Genuine want to search for knowledge. That's how I see it.
I see. Right. Okay. What would you like to say?
I have a different view in this. Actually been to, I studied in 5 different high schools.
Yeah.
I work in US, UK, Canada, and Hong Kong. I felt that Hong Kong people they're very smart, very technically strong. They have the problem-solving skills. But I think the soft skill side is something that they can work on, especially like being more entrepreneurial. I feel like there's a tendency of avoiding failure, a tendency of taking risks. Because we are so, we really care about how people judge us. And when I remember when I came from Canada in Hong Kong, come back to Hong Kong to study, I answered question when the teacher asks, and I didn't realize that we're not supposed to answer questions. We're not supposed to ask questions. It's kind of a very different environment than when I was studying abroad. So I think that mindset of taking more risks and being more entrepreneurial, and also the level of creativities, I think is something that we can do better. But I have no doubt about the technical and problem-solving skills in Hong Kong. They're amazing.
Right, that's very interesting. Indeed, actually, I see it's changing a little bit now, but I tend to agree, some part that you just mentioned, the like kids really, the students in Hong Kong tends to sit there and listen to what the teacher or tutor say, right, rather than just raise their hands and ask questions, because probably in their mind they felt that would be challenging, right? Well, I'm challenging my teacher, right? So it seems it's not right thing to do. All right. So you're talking about change of mindset here, I think. Right. What do you think? You as a thought leader, you give lots of advices to the organizations in terms of talent strategy, in terms of all these competencies, mindsets.
I'm trying to think how controversial I want to be. You know, I do think, look, I mean, there is a lot of debate, right, to see whether, you know, do we categorize the Generation Z, regardless where you are, they are all categorized the same, right? There's this notion that, you know, because society is so much, you know, as same as one, so there's no difference. But I think it's a mix of both, right? I do think that is society is much more comfortable, and you know, I'm from an older generation. I always ask a question: when's the last time we actually go through really, really tough times? I think when people go through tough times, it brings out character, right? Adversity, you know, I think adversity. I've seen it for myself. I've seen the '97 financial crisis, and I see how banking, you know, suddenly accelerated in a matter of months, right? When you have bank collapsing on every other day, that's a scary thought, right? That bank is gone. The next day, this bank is gone, right? When you do bank run, so I do think that some of this gap itself, it is a generation thing. Right. But I do think some of this gap also because I think in Hong Kong, life has been really, really comfortable. The amount of horror stories I hear, parents coming to join the kids for interview. I have come across cases, parents come and say, why are you making my son? He hasn't come back to have yum tong for the whole week, right? I'm sending you a check. Tell me how much he owe you. I send you a check for his resignation, right? So I think, you know, I think somehow during this period of time, I think we kind of lost the hunger to be successful and the hunger to get, you know, like your word resilience, right? I think we kind of lost that for a while. So yeah, that's my thinking.
Right, so the kids have got spoiled. Right.
Well, actually, if you're talking about, so we kind of, I mean, the question mentioned about, let's say, is the Hong Kong against the globally. But what I would say is like this, is actually in Hong Kong, actually there are very large, I mean, diversity. There are some people that are very traditional, but also some of them, they are quite open-minded and so on. And because recently I have one experiences, so I'm talking to a group of, I mean, kind of a gifted primary and secondary students. And to be honest, okay, when they have the response about to the speaker of our speech, their response are actually, I would say they're better than a lot of the university students in Hong Kong, okay. They're willing to ask about all these kind of questions. And those questions are really meaningful. And in fact, the more important is, well, as the different speakers mentioned about, is they ask those questions because you can feel the eagerness of their mind. They are really curious about this put on. So what I will say is like this is actually, well, it is hard to say whether Hong Kong globally, what are the position. Probably I would say it's more or less the same. But in fact, within Hong Kong, there will be a different mindset. So it's all depending on individuals. So you really have to be, I would say there's a very good advice is that you drive, okay, your directions by your own curiosity. I mean, if you are working on a topic that you're interested, you will spend more time in it, and you will spend more energy, and you will be better. So that's the more important. So in this case, in this new world, okay, a lot of challenges, that's true. So you really need to focus on the part that is your own goals, you're really eager to work on them, and then you will be a better successful case. Technically, or I mean, in the other manner, it's all the same. Yeah.
Right, I totally agree with what Dr. Hui said. But speaking from our experience, like at Astri, every year we actually employed around 40 to 50 summer interns. So this year we also have, having around 45 summer interns starting in a few weeks' time, for 8 weeks, in Astri. But when I look into all these young talents, they're kind of like, got an international mindset, right? They are not there to ask questions. And they always raise the hand. Sometimes they didn't raise the hand, then they just, shout out the question. And I guess, what Dr. Hui just mentioned is, when they are doing something they are really passionate, then you see their real character. I think that's the key, right? So, as a parent, we shouldn't try to force or push our kids to do something that we like them to do, but rather that they really enjoy doing it, right? Okay, great. Now comes the time that I would like to, crack a little bit deeper on individual, specific questions addressing to each panelist. Right, may I start with Dr. Hui, Lucas? Now, referring to the World Intellectual Property Organization 2021, Hong Kong ranks in the top 10 FinTech locations of the future for economic potential and FDI performance. Now, that's the background. Now, from a corporate perspective, how would you advise organizations, startups, public bodies, and private sectors on their talent strategies to help Hong Kong becoming a smart financial center?
Okay, I think for the organization, okay, Hong Kong or worldwide, okay, it's all the same. If you have the need, you will try to reach out to those people. So what I will answer this question is, I try to address an issue is, what is the specialty of Hong Kong in the global situation? Now, Hong Kong, of course, is a financial center. So that's why, okay, no doubt there are a lot of really, brilliant, okay, companies in this FinTech field. So those companies are there. So in this case, okay, what is the special, advantage of Hong Kong that we have? What I will say is like this: Hong Kong is a very small place, and all the, the resources are quite close to each other. So Hong Kong has an excellent, okay, bunch of universities, CityU, and also we will have, these research institutes like Astra, the other, the research institutes, and there's only a small community, and so it's small, so it's easier for us to group together. So what I will say is like this: is if we are for the companies, what I will say is like this: is we will have to increase the interaction between the universities, research institutes, and the industry. So in this case, okay, we will try to refine. In my presentation, I mentioned about some talent development programs. The S3, the research institute, is collaborating with the university. So if we have better linkage with the companies, then in this case, at the level of the fresh graduate, no matter it's undergraduate or the master or PhD, okay, we will have more practical experiences for those students. So we will, in the first level of employees, we will have a better control, and we have a better, production kind of, okay, yeah. I kind of don't want to use production for the, talent, but anyway, I think you understand what I mean. But then in this case, well, with a better supply of the, the junior level of employees, you can expect that, okay, it's easier for the companies to attract about the middle level of them. And then in this case, the whole ecosystem will become better. So what we say is like this: if you're talking about how to make use of the specialty in Hong Kong, I would say that is to, try to make use of the advantage that Hong Kong is a very close-linked small places. So in this case, it is easier to foster the collaboration of the universities, research institutes, and the companies. Then this will be one of the advantages that we can ride on.
Right, okay, great, thank you. Now, my next question I would like to address to Jeff. Right. Now, in your presentation, where you talk about 6 key competencies, you did actually elaborate, lots of details in that one. But now, if I ask you, from an industry perspective, right, which one would you suggest is the most difficult to get? The most difficult to get? And how could we possibly overcome this challenge?
Wow, that's a pretty impossible question. I don't think there's one in particular. I do think that it is a combination, right? When you talk about the learning agility, and that goes in hand with the navigating ambiguity, right? And the innovation orientation. To me, this is almost a triangulation of competencies, right? The reason I say these 3 combined, because it is, in order to actually master this, it calls for two different elements, right? It calls for, to some degree, your own person as an individual. As you talk about, the intellectual curiosity, right? Okay. It calls for whether, are you comfortable being in an awkward situation, right? That is something, whether you want it or you know, right? Whether how comfortable you are. So, and in the same token, that once you have that it ties to the notion of resiliency, right? I'm not comfortable. Can I push this through, right? So that is from the employee side of the equation. But the other side of the equation is that as an employer or organization, right? Are you enabling this? Are you allowing this? Are you pushing this, right? Do you immediately crucify somebody because they actually make mistakes in that sense? Do we enable this to happen, right? I think it needs both parts to make it happen. And I keep saying that for us to move forward to actually acquire, right? Both organization and individual need to go hand in hand to actually to create the environment for such competency to actually to thrive and to embed in society. So I know it's not a perfect answer, but I do think this is how you need to go. There's no magic answer to the whole scheme of things.
Right. So actually, that means, in terms of the mindset change, right? The employer, that they have a role to play. Right. Okay. Great. Thank you. Food for thought. Right. Okay. Now, my next question I would like to address to Fred. Now, here's some background, right? According to the Hong Kong Insurance Authority, by end of December last year, there were over 2,300 licensed insurance agencies, and plus over 110,000 licensed agents and technical reps, right? In this field, insurance, right? Called traditional agents. Right? When they're looking at you, what you're doing, you're just talking about, even though you're just hitting 1%, right, of that market, right? It seems that already FinTech enabled virtual insurance is start posing a serious threat to the traditional insurance agent. And this is coming, right? Now, in the driving seat of as a game changer, what sort of advice would you give to those traditional agents who want to move into the virtual insurance arena? How would they equip themselves to ride the digital wave in this paradigm shift?
I think the general trend is that for the simple product, it will go online. Right now, if you look at the travel insurance, auto insurance is already online. Now, the simple life and simple health insurance is going online.
Right.
It's a trend that we can't really stop because it's really demanding by the customers. If you look at FinTech, right, everything is already online. Online banking, lending, e-wallet. Yes. How come insurance is only 1%? Like, it's always the last man standing there, hasn't really changed. But if you talk to a consultant, I think they still have the better advantage of understanding face-to-face the human needs. Doing more holistic financial planning to understand, the family income, having a more complete understanding of the needs rather than just buying a product directly online. So I think that financial planning ability, the ability to build relationship, having an in-depth understanding is still crucial.
Right.
They can also embrace technology. I think it doesn't apply to just agents, right? I think any profession, if you don't improve, if you don't embrace technologies, at some point your job may get replaced.
Very
Even
true.
as an actuary or accountant or data scientist, if you don't learn, like one day you might be replaced, right?
Right.
But I think they can embrace technology by, I still see that a lot of things they do can be automated, as in improving the efficiency, right? There are a lot of back office, like a lot of forms to fill out. A lot, you can use smartphone to control your calendar. You can use social media to promote yourself, to let more people know about your products. I think there's so many things you can do.
Right.
So I think it's just like any other profession industry, just keep learning what is upcoming,
Right.
so that you can help them to automate some of your back office work, allow you to spend more time with the client, because at the
Right.
end, the human bonding with the client is something that cannot be replaced by AI, and this will be their competitive advantage.
Right. So actually, they should take the positive side, that's an opportunity for them to transform. Is that right? Right. Great. Okay, that's good. Okay, now my final question goes to Philip. Right. Your area is an area that has been very hot, recently, especially always keep people awake at night. Right. We're just talking about just a few seconds to an hour, then the price go ups and downs, dramatically. So we have to actually fasten our seatbelts, right, when we start touching on those cryptocurrencies. But I just want to answer your question that you've been asking for a while. I did try, but I found it pretty difficult, right? Because you're right, I found that I can't actually directly, put the money to buy the currency. I have to put it somewhere aside, change it into whatever in a wallet first, and I need to learn that, right, how to operate that wallet. And then buy it, and then how can I just sell it, right? It's a lot of learning, but it's interesting, right? Okay, now, my question for you is, from your perspective, what skills do you think are the key to sustain the cryptocurrency business in a volatile and complex global environment, right? And what should a corporation or individual watch out in deploying FinTech wisely, like crypto?
Okay. With the first question, cryptocurrency market is volatile. That is nature. Okay. And I don't think that is going to change. More importantly, I think, is we're not really talking about, the business will go up and down, a lot of people go bust. But I think it's more important to really keep abreast of technology development, okay, on the blockchain space. And I think the regulatory regime has to be, I wouldn't say toughened up, but it needs to be the right level of compliance. Because it's very easily nowadays, just with the word AML, okay, KYC, counter-terrorist financing, and then it makes the good people life miserable. And you never catch the bad guys. The big banks every year are ready to pay 2% of their profit as penalty, okay? So people like us, you can't even open a bank account, okay? You try to open a bank account, it takes forever. So I think technology, compliance is getting very, very, it's overused in a way. So I think that is, but you need to be aware of it. I mean, in the insurance businesses and banking is compliance left, right, and center for us. That's why we choose to have a license in the Philippines, okay, rather than Hong Kong. But going forward, of course, Hong Kong now have license, so we will have to go to get a license, okay, in order to be compliant. On the second question, for a company to deploy FinTech technology, you need to, again, stay abreast of the development, because a lot of new companies, they really haven't got their system properly tested, okay? Secondly is the workflow is probably thought up by just tech guys and not really user. It's a big problem, because we actually use a lot of outsourced solutions. So what we found, we're helping them to actually do their UAT, which is very frustrating. So a company want to deploy any kind of FinTech, you really need to do your research. And the best thing is you need to do the walkthrough. I was a chartered accountant, so the first thing we learn in an audit is you walk through the system. You go through every step of the way, the workflow, so you know where this particular product came from, where did it go next, did it get lost, etc. So same with the experience of how do I get my money from the bank into an exchange somewhere, okay, or to convert it into cryptocurrency, put it in my e-wallet, and then how can I buy something else? So you have to go through the motion.
Right. Well, that's still a lot of learning there. Right. Okay. Thank you very much. Right. I know that some of you have been waiting. Can't wait to share your questions. Now, probably we still have some time, right? Right. Okay. Wow. Time flies. We only got time for one question. Okay. Who's the lucky one? That one question.
Anyone would like to ask a question?
Okay.
Hello, I'm Harris.
Hi.
Year 1 MBA part-time student. I want to ask a question about the talent development program. As the talent demands will keep growing in the future, what is the future plan for talent development program? That's my question. Thank you.
Well, do you mean that actually it's general?
The future plan for the talent development program, such as link up with the university and the industry.
I see. So you're asking for Dr. Hui, right? Okay, great.
Actually, I think the question should be more for you. But anyway, okay. What I will say like this is, okay, as S3, as I mentioned, is the research institute. We have, talk with different university departments. So in this case, we try to group together. So in this case, there will be more. So we are having some programs. We're still moving on. But if you're talking about our research plan, basically it's just to follow the current situation. We will be expanding to more universities, so to a more system. So in this case, we hope that the student at the same time, when they're learning from the university, they can have more practical experiences, in the world. So in this case, even, okay, at the first day after they graduate, they will be able to be, working in some practical problem immediately. So that is the current situation. And of course, we also have the situation like we will have more, public seminars. So in this case, to encourage more students in their free time, they can learn more, knowledge first. Just like the FCAS program in S3 with the Hong Kong MA. But what I would say is like this, from the point of a student, okay, probably you have to, as all the other speakers mentioned, follow your own goals, your own, interests. Try to go to the internet. Okay, you know how to use the search engine, you can do a lot already. And then you can try to focus what you want to learn. And then it is better than you wait for some whatever program. Of course, we will build up different programs to help you, but you are the one that can help you most. Is to try to, from now on, think about what is your real goal. Okay, what is the tasks that you want to do better than you just search the internet for some video or whatever. Okay, if you have free time, you don't go to search those free internet, but work on those kind of the topics you want to learn. That is your target, and then you will help yourself. And I think this is the best talent development program. Yeah.
Right, okay. All right, great. Now we have one selected question actually from online, right? Now this is a question actually from my student. I just read out the original wordings from this student, right? I'm an engineering student, major in computer and data engineering. And as this event is held by business school, may I ask, is there any advantage for an engineering student to get into the aspect of FinTech? So who would you like to answer?
Sure.
Thanks.
Absolutely, because we take candidates, with politics, okay, mathematics, computer science, engineering is good. Engineers typically they are more detail orientated. To look at what's causing the problem, how do you resolve the problem. So sure, but I think that what FinTech they need people with analytical skill.
Right.
But I think more importantly, I've been emphasizing, is the innovation, creativity. I think nowadays is the most important, because the world is changing.
Yeah, sure.
One thing I didn't mention is，而家冇 file 睇嘅，好重要。而家冇 file 睇。OK， 如果你仲睇緊 file 咧，即係你仲係 you're still backwards. You're not thinking forward.
Right.
Okay, because lots of the big, the upcoming business, on the internet, they are tearing the old fabric to pieces, not in a bad way. It's taking out the middleman. That's what decentralization is all about. Decentralization now. So you need to start from how do you help the business, the consumer, to enhance the service. So I think any discipline is good, I think.
Okay, that's good. That's good news. Right. So anyone want to add anything before we close the discussion? Any further insight? Advice?
I think if you have an engineering background, I would certainly think that you have a set of very core discipline that is very helpful. The question is, how do you apply the analytical, the structured thinking, that you have in engineering to solving real problem in the world, right? I think that's the art of doing it, right? I think going back to the very thing, right? How do you make FinTech important? The challenge of FinTech. How do you embed in someone's life, in our day-to-day life? So a lot of skills you have do not be constrained by the discipline of your study, but thinking what kind of skills do I develop from that discipline and apply to solve business issues or solve people's daily issues? I think that's the key.
Right, excellent. Okay, great. Thank you very much. Now, we are just about out of time now, and I would like to take this opportunity to thank for the panel for sharing all these insights and advices. And I would also like to thank for the organizer, CityU Shop Forum, to have me be the moderator of the panel discussion today. Now, finally, of course, I want to thank all of you for all your great questions, right, and your participation. So once again, please join me to give a big round of applause for everyone's active participation tonight. Thank you. Thank you. All right, so have a nice evening, everyone. Thank you. See you next time.
Thank you very much for our moderator and speakers tonight. Please make your seat way back to your seat. Thank you.
Once again, a warm reminder to fill in the feedback survey which you will receive by email right after the event with a small quiz on the forum content. The first 5 respondents with all correct answers will receive 16 hours of data science and AI with Python Bootcamp, sponsored by Preface Coding.
On behalf of the City University MBA Shop Forum, I would like to invite our MBA Director, Professor Kelvin Chain, on stage to present our esteemed guest with a token of our appreciation. Please welcome Professor Chain. And now, let's invite Dr. Lucas Hoyt on stage. And please look at the camera. Thank you, Dr. Hoy. And now let's welcome Mr. Jeff Tang on stage. Thank you, Mr. Jeff Tang. And now please invite Mr. Frank Ngang on stage. Thank you, Fred. And now let's welcome Mr. Philip Tam on stage. Thank you, Philip. And now let's welcome Miss Sen Lee on stage. Thank you, Sen Lee. And now let's have our sponsor today, Miss Sylvia Wong, on stage. Thank you, Sylvia. And now we are going to have a group photo. Please welcome Professor Chen, Advisor Thomas on stage, and our speakers, moderator, sponsor, MBA office, and all good 3 committees. Please welcome on stage. Let's have our speakers, advisor, and Professor Chen on the first row. And our committee members, please welcome on stage. Everyone, please. Circle, MBA office. Thank you, everyone. Hope you all enjoyed the night. Please make your way back to your seats.
I am sure our audience has learned a lot tonight. Thanks again to all our speakers for sharing their experiences and answering the questions. To all our on-site attendants, we will have a networking session right after the forum. Please feel free to join us.
On behalf of the City University MBA Shop Forum, we would also like to thank our speakers, our moderator, our sponsor, our production house, our MBA office, and all members who spend a lot of time to make this forum together. Last but not least, we would like to thank you for coming tonight to our forum. My name is Jojo.
My name is Tyler.
We wish you a good night, and we hope to see you again in the next forum. Thank you.